5:30, so we'll call together our June 3rd Sidewalk Ad Hoc Committee meeting. And we will start with public comment. If there's anybody from the public that would like to make public comment, you can stand up, or if you want to come up to the podium, you can. We ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes and state your name and address, please. Let me get one more.
My name is Paul Crowell Jr. You may or may not know who I am. People in the business office obviously do, because I've been bothering them the last month. I'm related to John Crowell, the Ukrainian who with Annie Crowell bought the Crowell farm in the 1920s. My father worked there, I worked there, I was working there full time. And the reason I go into this part is because I'm not just an outsider, I live in Bristol. But I own 5 3/4 acres, of which 450 feet sit on Meadow Road. And I learned a month ago it was going to be a sidewalk, to much chagrin. So I used to work there. My brother and I got to make sure I stay within 5 minutes. My brother and I would pick 400-foot weeds, rows of weeds, clip blossoms of strawberries. And I ran the stand for 4 years, starting in 5th grade with my grandfather. 50 hours a week. So I know what farmington's like. My father inherited part of the 114-acre farm. The rest went to my Uncle Peter. We used to go down the flats with my dad when he picked corn. I only eat corn that's taken right out of the garden. So I have a background here. My cousins, many went to school here. There are not many that are alive anymore, but there's 3 of us still around. I'm trying to figure out how to stop. I was told that we can do whatever we want because we have a right of way, which is different than I think owning. And I inherited this from my dad about, I don't know, I think it concluded around 6 years ago. I've done some searching around to find out what can I do. I've not talked to an attorney yet, but I was told there's a 1938 ordinance grandparenting people who didn't want sidewalks. I'm in the process of trying to find that. Now, my understanding is that people want the sidewalk. Well, school kids aren't walking to school. I asked my brother. My brother has the house over on Judson. So people walk, a lot of them in the evening, and they walk, a lot of them out of the first road, and I forget the name, but coming from 177, they walk to the school. Most of them do that. There's a few that are coming from Portage. Wistera, I think, is the other one. And that's great. So why not put it on that side? Now, I was told this is to connect with the rail trail, which is really kind of interesting. Rail trails are meant for bikes. This does nothing for bikes at all. If anything, it gets in the way. So I'd be more than happy to support the concept of having a bike trail going there, but that's not what the grant's for. I would have spoken much earlier had I known about it. Again, I just found out about it from my brother, who I think just found out about it too. And he didn't even know it was on our property. So it's my hope that I will find a way of stopping this minimally. I have to have some inputs put in because I have no cutaways, none. So how to get to my property? I looked at the maps that they had the other day. There's one cutaway. They've been very nice in the office there. I have no complaints about them. They basically said that they thought they might be able to help me with the cutaways. That's nice. But I don't understand why they can't just put a sidewalk on the other side, bring it to the school, and that's it. Doesn't need to go any farther down. So anyway, my family has been involved in Farmington for a long time. I'm way too old for any of you to know me from those times. I don't think I bagged any of your corn when I was doing that. I picked potatoes over on Maria Road side of it. My family, my grandfather sent out a truckload to the Portuguese in Hartford. I have background here. Here's my dad. is newspaper article. I want that. That's the actual print from the newspaper.
Mr. Crowley, you got about 1 minute left.
Pardon?
About 1 minute left, just so you know.
That's fine. I'm just about done.
Yeah, no problem.
So I know you guys, that's not your job here, but I don't think you've had many people say they don't want it done. I know you're doing a global one. I talked to a couple of people from Farmington that I know. They said they had some issues with the park, with the sidewalks. Wasn't for this meeting, but, and I have other friends that I want to contact. I want to try to rally people against it if I can. I probably won't be successful because there's not a lot of time, because it started 2 years ago and here I am now. Anyway, thank you for your time. I want to sit for your meeting. I want to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And if you're
If there's anybody else sitting that would like to make public comment, Ms. Newberry, please.
Ann Newberry, 23 Hatters Lane, Farmington. I've heard a lot of controversy about the sidewalks, especially in the Unionville section of town. But more especially, I've been hearing that people are sort of arguing whether the town should pay for anything that's done or whether the residents should pay. I feel very, very strongly that the town should be paying. Then everything will be done as beautifully as it was done along Main Street in Farmington. And I'm sure that grants and whatnot can be obtained to help take care of the cost. So that's my real concern. Thank you, though, for studying all this, because it is a real issue, especially for the people who come down, many on wheelchairs and whatnot, down from New Horizons Westerly, and it really isn't safe, and the sidewalks are terrible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in council chambers that would like to make public comment today? We have online?
We have one attendee online, but I don't see a hand raised, so we'll give just a moment.
Attendee online, if you'd like to raise the Zoom function, if you'd like to speak, we'd be happy to recognize you. Please. When Ann tells me to do stuff, I do it too.
I'm Sarah Willett, 54 Garden Street. I spoke a couple of months ago at the meeting, and something new popped into my head about the liability issue with the sidewalks. And I don't know if this is consistent throughout Farmington, but when I had my property marked, the boundaries marked, the sidewalk is outside of that. So I was curious, I don't know if that's just Garden Street or, you know, how the town is laid out, but I know that there was some concerns about the liability issue. And since the sidewalk is actually not technically on my property, that might be something to consider. That's all. Thank you.
We're all set online.
All right. So we'll move on to item C, correspondence.
No correspondence.
Then we need a motion, Brian, for approval of the April 29th meeting minutes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 29th.
Second. And
All in favor?
Item E, new business. So we have a review of draft municipal policy and criteria for funding private sidewalk repair and new construction.
So one of the things, if you review in the minutes that we talked about, is some of the different things that we wanted to continue to do. So one of this to draft some policies on substantial direct benefit and on past practices for applying the sidewalk grants for the ad hoc committee. So what I did is that I tried to draft a policy on our current municipal policy and criteria for funding private sidewalk repair and new construction. So this is trying to just codify what we have been doing. So again, I think we've been really pretty consistent on how we've been doing the private sidewalks, and you can see how when we've done the PowerPoint from last meeting. And I think this is a good starting point of this is what we do. I think we tried to define substantial direct benefit. What we had considered a direct benefit, again, like for the Meadow Road sidewalks, it connected to a trail, it connected to a school, those types of things. And it's pretty consistent with the ordinance. I think that we've been informally doing this over the year, but this would be kind of, I think, what the policy would be if we were to codify it. Now, I guess the committee would, I think it's a starting point if you wanted to make changes on what we do, but I think this is what we do. I don't know if you want me to go through it just in general.
You mean the eligibility criteria?
Yeah, just to,
Yeah,
I
might
mean,
as well go.
I mean, again, we've talked about it, is that, for funding, it would be both for new construction and for replacement of sidewalks. The ordinance basically says it has to be a substantial direct benefit to the community at large. And then we tried to define what a substantial direct benefit would be, is an improvement that serves a substantial number of residents, enhances community-wide accessibility. Eligible sidewalk projects must demonstrate broad utility, for example, connecting numerous neighborhoods to public schools, trail systems, or town centers. So you remember we did the Unionville sidewalks, we did the Main Street sidewalks. Those are the ones for the town centers. On what was Meadow Road, that's a creation of a new sidewalk, so that would fit into that. Projects that only benefit individual properties or merely connect one neighborhood to another without providing access to school trails or town centers do not qualify as having a direct benefit. And our informal policy has been that we have had a bunch of different requests over the years to create new sidewalks, but we have not brought them further because, in my opinion, they did not have a direct benefit. And if they don't have a direct benefit, then the neighborhood would have to pay for them. And that usually would stop the new construction. And then the eligibility would be the connection to a public school, connection to a public trail system, enhancement of walkability in town centers, and saying that you must provide at least one of the following conditions in addition to criteria 4, because we have not spent public funds on repairing sidewalks or applying for new sidewalks unless we have gotten a grant for it. And the grants basically have the same sort of criteria. They, everything is kind of hand in hand. They go to trails, they go to town centers, they have an economic benefit, they go to schools. So again, priority will be given to projects that meet more than one of the above criteria. And then I just wrote for a note that, again, some locations, regardless, they could meet all of these different things, just may not be good for a sidewalk, just because of the logistics or the topography, the cost, things like that. So again, in broad terms, I think this is what we've done over the last 25 years.
The one question I had on the eligibility things was, where item 4 says that you would need the existence of a grant as well. If there was a neighborhood where we checked the other boxes, they couldn't get a grant for whatever reason, but the neighborhood was able to pool resources to have some sort of, I guess, does it need to be grant, or can it be some portion of outside funding yet to be determined amount?
Right. I think it could be that, or you could have almost a change in policy, because the ordinance is pretty open that the town could contribute more.
Yeah.
If the town could say, instead of having, if it met all of these things, instead of saying the town would be 100% or you get 50-50 for a grant, the town would do 75% and the neighborhood would do 25%.
Yeah.
In the ordinance, it's flexible for all sorts of things
Yeah.
to do that. And again, that would be, I think, potentially something, if there was an interest in modifying this policy to have that, saying that because it is eligible in the existing grant.
You do have external grants or third-party
Third-party, yeah.
contributions.
Yeah, right. But even the town could do more. I could see possibly a situation where for some reason you didn't get a grant and the town said, okay, we really think this is a great sidewalk project. It cost X amount of, it got a lot of community support, so the town will pick up 75% of the cost.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And I think, I mean, are you saying you could also have almost like a, yeah, the sliding scale was like you hit one thing, town chips in X,
Yeah.
two, up and up and up. If you hit all four on here, then
Right.
obviously it seems like.
I actually have a couple of questions. as
Sure.
well, if we've finished addressing that. I just found one small typo in here.
Oh, okay, let me know, where is it?
Yep,
Brian?
under eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
I found the same.
Where he says substantial direct benefits by meeting at least one of the following.
Yeah, I saw the same.
Oh, yeah.
At least, oh yeah, forgot the
So
one.
that's okay.
Thank you.
And I just had as I'm thinking about the things that we're doing, we're building in the town, maybe
Yeah.
we've kind of addressed this, but I'm thinking in particular about the splash pad, which I would consider a public destination.
Mhm.
But there's no sidewalks there. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if at some point we had a sidewalk that connected from there, maybe up to Copper Mine where we have our other sidewalk? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about public destination. We do have, you know,
Public
our,
recreation facility.
Public recreation facility.
yeah,
Yeah.
that might be worth
Yeah,
considering.
I think that needs to be.
Yeah. I think so too, Ron. We have not done that, but I think that's a.
Yeah,
good one.
just not that we have to do it today, but at some point we may want to do
But I-
that, make that part of our criteria
No, I agree.
as we look forward as to how this town is
No, it's not
growing.
like somebody could be reading it in 10 years. So.
Yeah, no, but I think that's a good point. Like, again, I think that you would think of it if for some reason, if even to go to the mead, there is a sidewalk there, but to connect another sidewalk that would get you to that sidewalk. That would get you
Exactly.
To the mead and stuff like that.
So I think that might be worth, putting in there so
Yeah.
we don't have to keep revising this.
Yeah.
Not that we can't.
Right.
So I don't know how you might want to,
Well, it sounds
Mm.
like, does it sound like we'd like to, again, this was just a starting point
I
of
like
what we
public
do.
destination.
Yeah.
Like you said, recreation area might be another way we phrase it, since you already have that in there.
The, for people that were petitioning for your sidewalk, that process remains the same. It'd be-
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We're just gonna have the more defined criteria, but the actual process is going back there. It's the same.
that, well, again, unless you guys would like to change that.
I think
that's-
it's fine. Right now, you have to get a petition from your neighborhood, right?
Right,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, I think what we could do is that, like I said, this is kind of where we are today. I could add in, to modify this, I could add the public recreation type of facility as one of the criteria. And then I could try to come up with some language that says that, about a grant, and that putting more language in about the town in its discretion could, if it hits more of these criteria, the town could contribute more to the project.
Mhm.
If you wanted something like that in there.
And as part of that petitioning, just, so you have more buy-in, more information, or whatever else. If somebody was petitioning their neighborhood, they don't have to, right, when you petition, you don't have to hit every house, right?
Right.
But it would be nice to know that everyone was informed, so if
Right.
there was some sort of a public discourse, people would have the opportunity to get by. The same way with
we have to do
planning
that
and
now?
zoning, when there's blasting and things like that, you
Yeah.
have to make sure so what is how far out are people notified before these sidewalks get put in? When
You
it is a public, when we put it in for a public.
Well,
like
yeah.
on a road.
I mean, we haven't put one in
Yeah.
like 30 years. So this Meadow Road would be the first one.
And how far out, how
Well,
long ago?
I
was
think
our-
that the next step, I think, is Russ is gonna start kind of meeting informally with the neighbors.
Okay, gotcha.
And then after that, you follow the process of having a public hearing and things of that nature.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be the next step.
So we're starting the process of letting people know now.
Now,
Yeah, I think having as much, I guess for a petition, do you need to say you need 50% of your street, 75% of your street? Do you need some percentage of your, or is it just however many names you can get?
right. Well, I think Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, is it like how we used to do water or how we used to do speed humps when we used to do it? We used to, you'd have to get the neighborhood and it'd have to be a vote, right? Like it was 75%.
So I think 75% is a good threshold. I think
Yeah.
I think
75% of the people would have to agree.
because like 51% is not. I mean, it's a majority, but it's not. It doesn't seem right for a major change in neighborhood.
Need a super majority.
I agree.
And that's why we haven't changed anything on the speed humps.
Yeah.
Because 50% of the people want them and 50% of the people want them taken out.
But when we got them to do the whole process, I think you had to have 75% of the people vote to have the speed humps, if I remember like the criteria, because we had a whole criteria of how we would do these things.
Yeah.
And like, remember like even like what was the water? Remember back in the day where we fund the water projects, we'd have a whole, you'd have to get 75% of the people to do that, and then the town would fund the money for water coming into neighborhoods.
I don't want to add too much nonsense to it too, but then so it's like you have to think about if you are, like a street like Garden Street, like I know Garden Street has sidewalks. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
Yeah.
So 75% of Garden Street you need buy-in. Do we care what the adjacent streets think?
You typically wouldn't care because the Garden Street people are the ones that are paying for
They're
the
the ones that
sidewalk.
they're the ones that are paying for it.
the
They're
sidewalk, and
not
the
raising
ones,
taxes.
the ones that
Yeah.
have to snowplow.
I agree with that too, but
But there's, again, the whole idea, again, we peel this onion is that when you're putting in a new sidewalk, should the whole neighborhood be paying for it, not just or the whole town be paying for it?
well, because then
You
it's
know,
like
whatever
it would be 75% of people getting the sidewalk too, right? So you cut out half of the street.
Yeah,
I mean, I think those are all the right ways to go. It's just interesting. I do think that needs to be spelled out so people, when they're going to do this, because the gentleman we had a few weeks ago that wanted the sidewalk up in the neighborhood up this way.
Yeah.
He would have a clear metric of what he needs to do. You could see, do I hit these boxes? Have I gotten my people? Yes. And
right.
kind of
You did appreciate it.
Like his is not, would not hit.
No, it doesn't have the criteria,
Criteria.
but I think that's more to everyone's benefit. So he could read that and say, if I'm doing it, then he's going to have to approach a different avenue and understands going into it. It's going to be more difficult to
Right.
get anything done.
Right, and I think, again, we've been very consistent on how we do it. It's just that I don't think we've done a good job communicating. how we
I
do
think
it.
this does a great job of that.
Yeah, we always do it the same way. It's just, we don't have any kind of, I think something similar to this should go when they send a letter, and then we send the ordinance and say, this is the criteria, this is how it's gonna work. If we're continuing on the same, idea, at least at this point, that we're not changing our overall philosophy of how we're doing it.
Putting it down.
Yeah.
I think this is great because we didn't have it before. So thank you.
But would you like to see, I mean, I think public recreational facilities, something like that should be added. But do you think I should try to put some language in that the town could participate more if, I mean, a grant would be, like I said,
I
we have
think you
not,
could say preference would be given to projects that check more than one of these boxes.
Yeah.
And however you phrase that.
because like I said, we have not,
Prioritize at least.
we have not done anything private without getting a grant.
I think that benefits the town anyway.
I just, again, to go to that, just a person, if they had a street, they're hitting two of these boxes, they get 100% of their neighborhood in, and they come to the town, oh, we don't have any grant funding. Well, can we fundraise as a group? And suddenly they put together, and they can say, hey, we can pull together this amount of money in the town. It's a good push and pull, and gives, so people don't feel like they're kind of
Yeah, okay, let me try to,
in the
and then
wilderness.
maybe even get a maybe if they had like a standard form that they got. That, they got the form and said, listen, you have to send this back and show us that you have this, and this.
It's like a checklist.
Checklist, yeah,
I think that's what most people are looking for.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay. All right, let me make some modifications on this, and I'll bring it back next time.
item 2 under new business would be review sidewalk rating form. This is what I'm excited for.
So I don't know if you met Thomas in the front row here. You're a UConn
Thomas.
student, right? And he's going to be our intern and doing some of our sidewalks for us.
Good.
So welcome, Keith, Brian, Russ, Kat. So thanks for coming in.
Yes.
So Russ and I and Kat were working on this very, very simple form. And kind of where I was thinking is that what we'd have Thomas do is that we'd have an A, a C, and an F. Very simple. And that, him not being an engineer, but we'd give him some training about what he'd be looking for, and we're not going to overcomplicate it. And he'd go and get the location, and we figured from 100 Copper Mine Road to 185 Copper Mine Road, like a section of road.
So go by address.
Yeah, and like not each house,
Yeah.
like a section of
Right.
sidewalk. And he'd look at the section of sidewalk and basically be like, one, is it new construction and is it 5 feet with no things? If it is, it would be an A. Is it a C? It's concrete or blacktop with varying degrees of separation, cracks, and it's less than 5 feet.
Mhm.
So just a C. And then F, it's severe cracking, heaving, missing sections, and it's 4 feet or less. And when Russ and I were talking, I think it's important that if it's an F and if it's less than 4 feet, because if we're gonna repair it, we should make them 5 feet. And, if they're gonna do it at that F. And so we need to know if they're 3 feet or different things like that.
You
So-
mean we as in the royal we the town?
yeah, we the town, yeah. And we thought that if Thomas went and started to do this and get an idea, and then once we looked at it, we would only start small and focus on the Fs.
Mhm.
And then the town staff, it doesn't have to be very technical, it's just an F sidewalk. We focus on that and find out how many of these are F sidewalks. And then Russ and his engineering group, we would go and look at those individually and get more information about them. What's the size? How many of them are there? And then we can get a ballpark of how many like F sidewalks we have. And so then we'll take it from there after we
Yeah, I
get through
think-
that.
Yeah, I think that from there you would go into your same prioritization rating.
Right.
You would say what's connecting a town center, what's what has heavy wheelchair traffic or what things like that.
Right. And I mean, again, I think that, I think there's a ton of sidewalks that are a C.
Yes.
A C. I'm not sure how many are truly Fs. I mean, I know that there's definitely ones, Ann mentioned an area. I know there's another area. They're definitely probably F sidewalks, but I don't know if it's 6% or is it 80%, of our sidewalks.
And it's tough too, because there's a lot of sidewalks where there's like a small section of F,
Yeah.
but not, like there's a chunk on, I think it's Rosewood, but it's that corner where there's only a small part of the Highlands I was walking yesterday. It's like where that corner turns, the whole chunk there is an F for sure. But then there's other parts that are fine, that it's old asphalt and it runs and it's got no problem. So but something like that to me, if it was thrown in the list of these things, it would probably be way down the list because it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere already anyway. So
Yeah, and we're gonna hope that we give Thomas some training and that he can write some notes and things like that. But I think our objective is to prioritize like big sections of F, and there's like you said, there'll be a lot of nuances to this. A little section could have it, or one person could have it, but I think we should focus on him if we really want to try to get a lot done and just not say, okay, well, 131 is an F, the rest of it's C. Like just let's focus on Fs and then go from there
makes
and then
sense.
have town staff come back and the professionals kind of look at it and we go from there.
yeah, that's great.
So, so it's just the 3 things, the date of the inspection, the sidewalk, the grade and the notes. And Thomas is going to work I think we said maybe 8 to 10 hours a week trying to do inspections for us.
Which paying by the step. Thomas, That's,
Yes.
that's what you need to negotiate.
Get comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then that brings us to F, which is our next steps and the meeting schedule.
So I think we still need to get we need to do our inspections to see where we stand. I'm going to update some of our draft policies. We're working on finalizing the prioritization of potential sidewalk projects. We talked about Copper Mines Road, Route 4 Bridge near Route 4 near the Big Bird Bridge, New Britain Avenue, Route 6 to the police station, Webster Street. We haven't sat down. There's more than that, but we haven't got to that yet. And then we still have to talk about, our communication schedule. And, then we also have to once we get some of this, I think we have to start talking about policy decisions. Are we staying with our current ways we're doing things? Or are we interested in changing up how we're doing things?
Okay.
And I don't think we can do that until we still get more information about stuff.
But it sounds like we have more information, more processes in place that we can share.
Right. No, I definitely. Yep.
So we kicking our next meeting until after we give,
I think we should get a little bit of time to do some inspections, right?
do we, should I bother Thomas and tell him that I don't mind doing some inspecting myself? I can bring I can do some of my own forms.
You may have
We'll
company.
chat offline, Thomas.
You have to attend
You
the
do.
training.
Yeah.
You have to attend the training.
I can't make it. But I gotta wash my hair. Okay, so when were we going to meet?
What's where are we? Want to meet like maybe like the last week of June or something before we start really getting into the holiday? Or you're gone, maybe,
I can do that. I mean, it's 4th of July week, but I'm back the 30th, so I can do anytime after that. I zoom intermittently. I will not be
yeah,
out there with my wife.
no,
But yeah, that week of like 7th to the 11th, if people are around.
yeah,
Of July.
yeah. All right, how does your schedule look?
I'll be back. I'm out the week before.
Okay. Russ, are you around that week of
You
the
guys can feel free to meet.
anytime? What, maybe, do we have the council, do you want to maybe
Yeah.
meet before the council meeting on the 8th? We
That's
can
good. I'd rather
double
do that,
book
yeah.
that on the
Sure.
same day?
Why not?
Probably would cancel the 28th.
Yeah,
We have the
yeah.
28 building.
I don't know about
because we'll probably have
We know
that
they've been canceled
canceling the first one. Yeah. So why don't we do it on the July 8th,
at this
5:30? Yeah,
5:30.
yeah. All right.
Brings us to adjournment. So,
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
second and passed.